Welcome back. Last section of our painting is going to include complementary colors. Complementary colors are colors that are opposite on the color wheel. Once again, we have orange and blue, red and green, violet and yellow. Always with complementary colors, there's going to be one primary color with one secondary color. Blue to orange, red to green, yellow to violet. Whenever I try and connect those, they always intersect through the neutral gray. So when you mix complementary colors, you get a neutral gray. Same thing even for your intermediate tertiary colors, because red-orange is complement to blue-green. Red complement to green, and then orange complement to blue. So those can even be mixed together to obtain a neutral gray. If you equally mixed all these colors together, you would get a neutral gray, not brown, because that's the way, if all the colors are mixed, that's why that's in the center, the neutral gray. Okay, so you get to pick two colors. When we picked our intermediate tertiary colors, those are colors that are next to each other. So blue, violet, blue, green, yellow, orange, red, violet. That primary color is next to that secondary color. Now, the complementary color is across. So we'll go ahead and do red and green. We'll start with our primary color on the left-hand side. So once again, start with your brush, some wet. You're going to come in and add moisture or water to red. Okay, grab quite a bit of red in there, get it going. Add my red to one side. Once again, we never want to contaminate the actual paint cake. That is the purest form of the color, because if we contaminate that, it will forever be ruined and you will never have that purest of pure color that you originally had. Scrape off as much paint and pigment as you can on that little edge. And I'm going to come in, once again, we're starting with pure red, and then we'll do the other color, pure green. So primary color on the left, that could be red, blue, or yellow. I'm going with red. Coming in with my flat edge brush number 12. Coming down, making a nice opaque box. And now you have 1 out of the 6 boxes complete with the purest form of red. Or 1 of the 7. Okay. Then I'm going to clean my brush. The complementary color to red is across the color wheel, which is green. So now I'm going to come in and grab my pure green. Once again, start an area on the other side of the lid of my painting palette. Grab some more green, get it nice and pigmented. Really intensify that green. Take some excess off just in case, we don't want to overdo it. Go straight across and add the green box, the same size as your red. Okay, it's low on the transparent side, so we can try and get some more pigment and develop that. Once again, if you think you're going to need another layer after this second layer, give it some time, let the paper dry, because if we overwork our paper, it will start to tear. Okay, go ahead and clean my brush off. Now I'm going to focus on grabbing some red, putting it in the middle. Grab a little bit more pigment, looks a little on the transparent side to me. So grab some nice pigmented red, and then you're just going to grab a touch of green, just a little bit of green. Looks a little bit aggressively dull. Remember, intensity deals with our complementary colors, so these are very intense colors. Very bright and vibrant red, very bright and vibrant green. When we mix them together to get the complementary color, or use the complementary colors to mix to get the neutral gray, they're going to become more dull or less vibrant, so that deals with intensity. So I'm going to get quite a bit of red on here, because that green is pretty strong. I'm going to come in and apply my red. Now it's going to look a little bit darker in terms of color because you're working towards that neutral gray by adding the complementary color. Okay, build up a few layers on that, let it dry after my second layer, and then build up again to get a nice opaque color to it. Even that out. Okay, then I can just, if you want to, you can use exactly what you already have and just add more green to it. Now I'm getting a little bit watered down on the transparent side, so I'm going to clean my brush off because I'm going back into my cakes. And then I'm going to grab the pure red, grab a lot of pigment, and just go ahead and mix it right in here. Get that flowing. Now we want a little bit more green. It's okay to bring the red into this green because once again it's not the original cake. You can always get more green from the purest area. Okay, so you can definitely see that's still on the red side, which is perfect. Maybe bring it down just a little bit. It's a little similar to that one. Come in and make our next box. Smooth that out. Okay. And I think this one, they're a little close. So I'm going to go ahead and just still use the same color I have and build up a second layer on this guy. And then I'm going to come in and do another layer on that with a little bit more green. So right now I'm intensifying the opacity of box number 2. Now I'm going to grab a little bit more green and mix it with the color I just used to bring it towards the complementary colors to a neutral gray. Okay, it's still got that red vibe to it. Bring this in. Alright, we can see now it's definitely darker, but it still looks red, which is perfect. We're one step away from that neutral gray. Now you won't get a true gray that looks like this. You could achieve that with acrylic or even watercolor if you add white to it. But once again, we don't have white in our palette, so that won't be super achievable to make it look exactly like this. It's going to be a lot darker in terms of a darker gray when you apply it onto your paper. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the green, and then we'll find that middle at the end. So now I'm going to come in. Red is in all the top portions of my palette, so I'm just going to use my paper towel where it's wet and swipe up and clean off the area so I have more room to work for my greens. Brush is nice and wet, coming in with a clean brush into my pure green, mixing that over here. Okay, I'm going to grab a touch of this red, just a smidge, and that will make the green one a little bit darker. So now we see majority green. That red is gone, even though now the green is a darker green compared to the original green, and we will see that when we apply it right here. So you want to make sure if you're on the left-hand side of the middle, they're majority red, or whatever primary color you selected, and if they're on the right-hand side of the middle, then they are majority of the secondary color you selected. For me, that would be green. Smooth, nice, flat application. This is still majority green, but you can definitely tell that it is a darker green. Okay, now I'm going to need to add more red. Clean my brush off. Don't want to contaminate the original red. I'm just going to go ahead and add it to the area that already had that darker green. Mix those together. Once again, we still want to see majority green when we're looking at it. I want to add a little bit more green. We're starting to get that neutral gray though. Just a touch more green. We want to make sure we have correctly what we want on our paint palette before we put it on our paper, because once it's on our paper, watercolor, it's kind of no going back. Alright, that's still majority green, but definitely darker than that green, so I'm going to come over, create my box, and even that out, just like before. paint. Throw in another layer on there. It's still majority green, but it's a lot darker green. Alright, clean my brush off. Grab some red, and now I should get a 50-50 even neutral gray. Some of you might be shocked by this, thinking it should just be brown, but we will achieve a nice gray. And you will, technically, you would get the exact same middle color, or neutral, even if this were blue and orange, and even if it were yellow and violet, you would find that middle neutral. I will say this, yellow and violet will be the most challenging, as violet really overpowers the yellow. Yellow is not a very strong color in terms of the other colors on the color wheel, so you will want to be a little bit cautious if you do select yellow and violet to not overdo it with the violet when mixing it with the yellow. Alright, I think we have achieved that neutral gray. Maybe just a touch more. Sometimes it might look a little bit on a cool side gray, which means you have a little bit too much blue, green, or violet. Those are your cool colors. And then sometimes you might think it's a little bit on the warm side, which would be a red, yellow, or orange, so a little bit too much of those. So you can go ahead and see right there that we have our nice, mixed together, evenly neutral gray. Go ahead and put that right in the middle. And once again, everybody's neutral gray should relatively be the exact same, because all the colors on the color wheel will develop this neutral gray when correctly mixed together. Let that dry for just a second. I think it's a little bit on the transparent side. So if you're a mathematical person, 100% red, 100% green, 50% red, 50% green, and then you'd find the steps in between. So I would say maybe 75% red, 25% green, 75% green, 25% red, 60% red, 40% green, 60% green, 40% red, and then once again an even 50-50 split. Since violet is more overpowering than yellow, it might not be an even 50-50 split. You'll have to play around with the colors and how they're interacting with one another if you choose to do yellow and violet. So I wouldn't say it's going to be a pure 50-50 split. Same thing kind of with blue and orange. Blue is going to be maybe a little bit more powerful than the orange, but that's why we're going to do this, to experiment and play around with the colors. But here you have your complementary colors, primary color, secondary color, to create neutral. So you have finished your page of understanding transparency to opacity, tertiary intermediate colors of mixing two colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, one primary color, one secondary color, to create that intermediate tertiary color. And now you have finished off with a primary color and secondary color that are across each other on the color wheel to create a neutral gray. Have fun with this. Understand that this is kind of the basis of all aspects of painting with watercolor, and retain this information to make great paintings throughout the year.